Good evening, lovely tubers. White Mexican back again with another video. Today I'm going to be discussing Dark Crisis, so we're just going to get right into it here. Looking at Yugioh Necross. Doesn't look like there's any firsts on the first page. About 7 for the Unlimiteds, and then the first edition here is about $11. So 1 for 11, and then it quickly moves into about 15 and into the early 20s after that. Skill Drain. I want to review Skill Drain, but not this one. I personally am not a fan of the. I like original prints, but I like the dual terminal one. Of course, we also have the ultra rare one, which is super expensive. Wasn't there like an alternate, like the Lost Art promotion ultra one? Maybe it's not on here yet. I'm not really sure, but you can see just all versions of Skill Drain. It is currently limited at 1, of course, such a blowout card. Awesome Floodgate. But more specifically, my favorite is the dual terminal commons. And these are sitting about 8 to 10 across the board. Only 2 pages left, so really, really nice. I only have, I think, 2 copies of this myself, so kind of hard to get, but really nice card. One of my favorite zombie cards here, Vampire Lord, definitely was the big hot chase card way back in the day during the first generation sets of Yu-Gi-Oh! There's only about 3 pages, surprisingly. I thought there'd be more of this for the original secret, but the first edition comes out 15, and then it just moves on after that, and there's only about 2 for about 15 for the first editions, and then it moves up after that. Amazing artwork, by the way. Definitely got some really killer artwork there. Let's see what else I want to kind of cover here. DD Warrior Lady. I love this card. I used to run this a lot, and back in like my Chaos builds and stuff, old first generation Chaos builds. But this card is really, really cheap, and to my understanding, if I reviewed these a couple days ago, I'm kind of backtracing here, but I think even for the first editions are still relatively cheap. So it's about $3 for first editions. At the bottom of page, oh, actually one for a 211 up here on the top of page 3. There's one here for a 211. That's a pretty nice price. I believe this came ultra rare, like Duelist League ultra rare, or Hobby League. That's what it was called, ultra rare. This looks actually really nice too. It's like the parallel ultra rare, like the OCG. Really, really nice. Didn't get a lot of rarities like that here, especially for the ultra. I think this is the only set that gave us the ultra rare parallel ultra. But honestly, I like the super more. I wouldn't really care much about the Dark Revelations or Gold Series. I would definitely Duelist Saga too. I forgot Duelist Saga had this as well, which is super cheap too. So actually, honestly, I think that for what it is, the Duelist Saga is actually really cheap. It's like a quarter. Duelist Saga is like about 50 cents first edition, and then it's about $2 to $3 for the original print supers. Honestly, I like the original print supers just because of nostalgia. That'd be my favorite choice. These are pretty nice too. You gotta be careful about these because I'm pretty sure these were made by Upper Deck and they're a little bit thicker. And depending on the tier of game you're playing, you might get in some troubles with that. I really like this card. I wish it wasn't so like situational, so specific. It's pretty cool. It's a counter trap. It's like this old school Egyptian looking. It's the old school secret. Really awesome. Has like the Anubis Egyptian god dog thing here, and it just, the only thing I don't like about this card is it has to be it's just really situational the way they word it. But it's pretty cool how it's like a built-in ring of destruction if you can pull it off. And but for what it is, being an old secret, I think even the first editions went up just a little bit. I definitely think that there is better alternatives for protecting your magic and trap cards. The first edition is about $3, so it's been slowing, going up a little bit. But its artwork's really cool, and it's an old school secret, but I personally just think there's, it's too situational. The card text is too situational for me personally. But I know I have several first edition prints that I just have had from my old sets that I collected years and years ago. This card's pretty cool too. There was a lot of like cheat loops or recycle loops with this back in the day. It is currently banned. I'm pretty sure there's really not that many prints of this. There's 3 prints. There's the rare, super rare, original print, and common. So the super rare from Dark Crisis is definitely the best one, highest rarity. Now let's see what the first editions are looking at. First editions are 85 cents for 2 of them. This is really cheap. So what it is, I mean, this is pretty cool. This is under $1. There's 3 under $1 here for first editions. This is still banned. I don't know why it's still banned. I don't really see any loops that are currently running around that you could really abuse this with. But it's really not that. The only thing is, it's just the recycle factor that it gets returned to the hand. But it's a really cool. It used to be like, like I said, there used to be loops back in the day, and that's why I originally got it banned, and it hasn't been unbanned since, to my understanding. And it's all well under $1. So these are for all these first editions. There's quite a few for under $1. I think that's a pretty square deal, especially that one for 2 for 85. So I would personally, probably later on, I'm probably gonna come back and snatch up a couple of these just because of just the old school nostalgia on it and just being first edition original prints. This is pretty cool too. This card would be like super awesome if it wasn't a neg 3. It's a neg 3 because you have to activate and you have to pitch 2. Now, this is kind of interesting because depending on what you're playing, you can actually plus from getting cards effects in the graveyard. So depending on what deck you're playing, it's pretty cool. The only thing I don't like about it is, I mean, it could potentially be good in that type of deck where you want to pitch and you want to get things in the graveyard, but regardless of the fact, at the end of the day, it's still a negative 3 because you're activating it, you're pitching 2, that's 3 of your cards to get rid of 1 potentially of your opponent's card. A lot of decks run 3-ofs for magic cards, like the really powerhouse magic cards, like, Sky Striker or whatever it may be. So, I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted with this card just because the sheer fact, it is really powerful. It's awesome that it can just completely get rid of like the whole set of a particular powerhouse magic card. But it's still a neg 3. So it's still a neg 3. So it's kind of a mix match deal. But it is a counter trap and it has breaker on it. Really badass artwork. And it's really cheap. And even the first edition is really cheap. There's 4 here for 50 cents. And it goes into like about $1 after that. So, and there's plenty in the market. So, I mean, I'm probably going to come back. Maybe not right now, but just the sheer fact that it is a counter and you can just completely clear a whole set of magics from your opponent's deck. Check the hand deck and any cards in the same hand and deck. Yeah, so they have to play it first. Okay, so anyway, I don't know. It's got breaker on it and it's really cheap just for what it is. If this was anything like over $1, I wouldn't really worry about it, or $1, $2. But seeing how it's literally a $50 for the first edition lightly played, I think that's kind of interesting, something to consider. It's kind of debatable because again, it's a neg 3, but then you could potentially get 3 of your opponent's cards, and they could be like powerhouse cards. But anyway, I'm gonna not ramble too much about that. That's just food for thought. Moving on here. This is one of my all-time favorite vanilla monsters, Archfiend Soldier. I know Labyrinth of Nightmare came out before this set, so we had Gemini Elf. But I'm a big-time hardcore fan Dark World player, and this is my favorite vanilla fiend monster. It's really cool. Not really playable right now, but Konami's not done with giving support to vanilla decks. And Fiend Dark Attribute, there's so many deck archetypes that have this, and it's got really awesome artwork, and it's just a really old school awesome card, and it's really cheap. They're like first editions are under $1. They're like a $50, and there's only 3 pages left. So maybe this could be an add-on when you have a bigger purchase. You can add on some of these, but I just think that's pretty cool. Rescue Rabbit is still a thing, and we might even get different cards that are like better than Rescue Rabbit or do more support for vanilla monsters or vanilla decks. So, and it's a 19 beer, so, and it's 4 stars, so you can get a lot of awesome XYZs out of it as well, depending on what you're playing. This card is, I don't know, there's something about this card. This card has like a really just kind of like WTF effect, like how can this ever benefit you? When this card is sent to the graveyard, return it to your deck, then shuffle your deck. So I mean, this is like anything. Like if you pitch it, if you link it off, if it is detached as XYZ material, if it's used as synchro material, whatever it may be, it just goes back in the deck, and it just seems like a total like useless effect. But just the fact that it's a beast and it's a light, and beast isn't like a super popular. We don't have like, it's not like fairy or fiend or spellcaster or dragon, like these big dominant types of monsters that we have so much different cards for. So, and it's got really cool artwork. I don't know, it sounds kind of cheesy. I just really like the artwork on this card. It's a cute little dog with a little collar, and it's a light. It's a really light looking card. Not a lot of prints of this card, just the two. So it's the Dark Revelations and the Dark Crisis. I'm a big fan of original print stuff for the most part, so I would definitely consider this one being the best. First edition, of course, and it's super cheap. 37 cents for a near mint first edition here, and it gets into about 50 cents. So, you know, well under a dollar for this card. There's 5+ pages, not a lot of walls here, twos and ones of, but maybe a good add-on. There's something about this card. I feel like eventually there's gonna be some kind of combo that this card is gonna use, and then it's gonna end up like putting this card on the radar. I just think that, I don't know. It's just it's kind of random. It's just a random thought I have, but outstanding dog Maron is, I don't know. It's pretty cool. Anyway, precious cards from beyond. This is pretty cool. I think I mentioned this in one of my draw power videos or draw card videos. Pretty cool. Obviously, you're pretty much only going to run it in Monarchs or True Draco. It's just draw power. Those are like the dominant tribute decks. I think those are like the most powerful tribute decks we've seen to play for the most part throughout the game's history. And not a lot of tribute decks come to predominance, but you know, those are the two that come to my mind personally. And I just think this is kind of a cool card because it's continuous and it's potentially a +2 depending on how you play it. You know, just doing your normal gain state plays. But the thing that's kind of disappointing about this card is it does not come hollow. It is just a common. There's only two versions of it. There's the Dark Crisis and there's the Dark Volumes 1. So something interesting and why I'm kind of reviewing these commons is because there's not a lot of prints. There was like the Dark Revelations reprints or Dark Beginning or whatever, and then the original Dark Crisis, which, I mean, come on, let's get real. Who has boxes or booster packs of Dark Crisis, or you know, probably, you know, common binders? You can probably find these in like really old school shops that have really like, you know, first generation common boxes where you can find something you want to put in time to dig for these. But these are really old, and because there's only two prints, I really feel that, you know, that there's not a lot of availability for this card for the most part. Well, quite a few here, but I don't know. It's old, and there's not a lot of prints. If this was to obviously see some big play, I think Konami would reprint it if it got really popular into a hollow foil, at least a super. I mean, come on, it's been a common since the game started. But I think the eventually, if it finds popularity in a tribute deck, then even the commons will go up and be a couple dollars, and probably even a little bit more than a couple dollars, because there's only two prints of the card, and it's just an ancient card. Maduro is another card. It's not like a really blowout effect, but depending on how you use it, I think it's pretty decent. It gets a 200 boost for every fairy monster in your graveyard. So if you're playing a deck, there's a lot of decks here where you can just dump a lot of fairies in your graveyard, and you can just slap this on board, and it can get pretty big pretty quick for what it is. Plus, it is, the only thing that bothers me is it's not a light. It really bothers me that it's not a light. It's an earth, which is, that's so misfitting of the fairy archetype, but it is what it is. And it's a level 4, so it's really good for, you know, all the generic rank 4 XYZs, or, you know, synchro for level 8, depending on what tuners you have, or whatever it may be. But I just think for what it is, it's super cheap right now. Like, again, the only argument is I really wish it was a light. I think it's so dumb that they made it an earth, because a lot of this stuff needs to support light and the fairy archetype, fairy monsters. But the first editions are like 30 cents, and then like 49 cents, 50 cents. So well under a dollar. There's several on the market. Again, my only argument with that, of course, is it's not light. But for what it is for original print first edition from an old school set like that, for its price, I think that's really cheap. This card's kind of cool too. It's slow because it's a flip effect, but you can basically search any equip spell card, like anything that you need. We have a lot of awesome killer equipped spell cards. My personal favorite is Moon Mirror Shield, honestly, in my opinion, as of right now. But it is a Beast Warrior too in fire, so I think what is it like, Boojins, or is it Boojins, or I forget. I forget. There's a anyway, I'm not sure. I've never really built a lot of like fire decks, but there is a couple decks that have run this theme of fire Beast Warrior stuff. Kind of drawing a blank here on that. So I mean, it's slow because it's a flip effect, but maybe if there's a way when we get a support to speed up flip effects. Again, this is another thing. Like most of the cards in this set, there's only a 2 print: the Dark Revelations and Dark Crisis. So not a lot of prints on this card. Kind of silly artwork, but just food for thought. This is another amazing card that we still do not have a holo for. This allows you to substitute for your dark rituals. You can slap anything on the board with this. And again, I think it only has 2 prints, 4 prints. Common, common, and then the rare. So this is definitely the highest rarity. I got a common Legendary Collections 3, a really amazing set. I really highly recommend you guys take a look at that set. A lot of high rarity staple cards. So anyway, this is the highest rarity so far. It's really disappointing. I think this card would look amazing in Secret Rare. I could just see like this blue fire in the Secret foiling would look really, really nice. But I just think this is a really awesome generic card. And Dark is a really, well printed, really popular attribute. And there's definitely a plethora of Dark rituals out there. And there's a first edition here for a quarter. And then it goes into like 50 cents. There's a lot of ones of and twos, so well under $1 here for this card. And I just think this is really underrated. I would definitely hold a playset. I'm pretty sure I have a playset. I have to check my inventory, but I think this is really great. I definitely think it needs a holo reprint for what it is. This card's pretty cool too. The only thing I don't like about this is it's a tribute summon, but its effect is pretty awesome. Again, I said I'm a big Dark World player, so being a feed, being a dark is pretty nice. But it does piercing. The first effect is it does piercing battle damage, and then every time it inflicts battle damage, you can pitch a card from your opponent's hand. So it's like a Spirit Reaper. Yeah, it's like a Spear Dragon slash Spirit Reaper. It's a pretty cool like combo or mixed card. The only thing is it's really low. It's only 1800 attack, and you got a tribute for it. So if there's a way you could special summon this card, if they get like if you can figure out a way to special summon this like quick and easy, I think it's a pretty nice alternative. But trimming it normally that's kind of a no go for me. Getting to the bare minimums here. That may have been one of the last cards that I really wanted to talk about. It's been a couple days since I researched this set, and there was a few. Those cards that I've already talked about were like the highlights that I had. There doesn't really look like there's much. This is kind of an interesting card. Final attack orders. Used to use it with my beater deck back in the day. This card was pretty cool back in the day because it had one of the highest defense. I think it's 20. It was 21. I thought it was 23, but that was kind of used as a big defensive card back in the day. I don't think there's really. This is mostly just going to be like the low end commons here. But anyway, I wanted to spend more time focusing on the sets and depicting them more in detail. So I'm going to start doing my my generation 1 at least market watch / videos, going set by set, really trying to depict apart the things that are kind of unknown, a little lesser unknown. So it wasn't a super blowout set. Dark Crisis was, you know, I don't remember being too excited about it. I mean, I think this Magician's Force, I think, was the one that came out before this. That was a really popular blowout set. So, nothing too crazy with this, but I just wanted to do a quick review video on this. And in a couple days, or maybe tomorrow, hopefully I'll have time to shoot another video for the next set. But that's pretty much all I have to say for this. I hope you guys found something useful in this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next video.